Today I want to talk about wiring this wireless remote into this pump and bypassing all the wireless connections. So recently I got this Slick Comfort pump in and it did not work. And take it apart. They had these little plastic tabs that you have to press in at the bottom. Then you have to disconnect all your wires. Please pay attention to the wires. You do have a positive and negative to this. As far as AC goes, the neutral or the big plug, the big end on your plug is the rigid side. And this is the vacuum pressure or the pressure hose. And it feeds through the board here and it connects to a black connector, this guy here, the pressure switch. And you just lift it up after you remove all that. Now, the way this works is you have 120 volts go through the fuse. This feeds into the bridge. Output of the bridge is 168 volts DC. And these filter it. It goes into this switcher here. And the switcher controls the output or the primary side of the transformer, which basically controlling the frequency for the output of the transformer. You get about 6.6 volts. You can measure that across the D4 on the back side of D4 and ground, which is C34. And D4 feeds into this here, which is U21, which is the 5-volt regulator. And I've been getting 0 volts on the regulator. This is your input, this is the ground, this is your output. So you measure from here to here for your voltage. So I went through the circuitry and found that this is a transponder, or a transmitter, I should say a transmitter, because it has a wireless remote. And this is the antenna here. This is the traces for that. And this is your processor. These are NXP chips, they're proprietary software on it. So I can't just take and buy one off a DigiKey and replace this. It would have to be programmed. This is the program port here. J1 and J2 had to deal with that. So it's missing Y1, and I don't know if it was supposed to be there or not. But there's no crystal for this one unless it uses the same crystal for that chip, Y2. Regardless, I took and removed these and my 5 volts is back. So what I'm going to do in order to fix this is I can't just take and go and buy this off of DigiKey or Mouser. I'm going to remove these chips here, I'm going to remove this chip here, and I'm going to remove that chip here. The pressure switch is no longer going to be used. So basically what I'm going to do is utilize these two MOC3021 chips, which are opto couplers, and they drive, or opto isolators, I call them couplers, or isolators, and they drive for these MOSFETs, which puts one AC line on to the bridge, which puts out the DC voltage for your two air pumps. So one side of this is your hot going in, and this is your neutral. So one side feeds into the AC side of the bridge, and the other side feeds into this MOSFET. So when you turn on this, or when you turn it off, this switches and triggers these two transistors or MOSFETs. One inflates it and one deflates it. So what I'm going to do is take and put, since I already has this, puts 5 volts into R34 and R54. So your light is on constantly, the LED inside. You can see this LED here. So this transistor Q10 and Q2 gets turned on by the processor. So what I'm going to do basically is take and put my run Cat 5 into this, since it has a wireless remote. I believe this is where they would have a wired remote, would be where this would be at on J4. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to solder a wire to this. I'm just going to get rid of the transistor, it's not needed. I'm going to solder a wire to this, pin 2 to here. And I'm going to use Cat 5 cable, and I'm going to run that to the remote. This is what the remote looks like. I took it apart. It was kind of hard to get apart. Basically, you just take a small screwdriver or something and wedge in between here, and you keep popping all the way around, and that's where you get into your remote. And the 9-volt battery would come into here. So before you go into all this trouble, make sure you change your 9-volt battery. Make sure the remote's actually working. If the remote doesn't light up, it has nothing to do with this. Your battery's bad or something. Okay? So don't go the 9 miles that I'm doing for this. This is only because the circuitry here is shorted and I can't use the wireless remote to turn this on. So, with that being said, I'm going to take and drill out on the bottom of this cover here a hole big enough for the Cat 5 cable, and I'm going to take and feed that through the bottom this way, and I'm going to solder the wires on the pads here, and I will cut the vias for the traces for this so it doesn't feed into the circuitry of this. This has the same processor and transmitter chips for this. So when you make contact, I'm just going to solder a wire on one end. It can be down here, and I can cut the trace before or after, and I'll have one common, that'll be your ground, and then the other side, I can have one ground for both switches, and then one side will be fed up here and the other side will be fed up here. So we have one common, or your ground, however you want to say it, and I'll cut this here and follow this up here, and it's the same way. So I can solder a wire basically to this tab here and this tab here on both sides. I'll solder a ground on both sides, and that'll be fed into this as well, and then I'll solder a wire here. So this is only 5 volts or 3.5 volts it's going to be, so it's not dangerous at all. It's low voltage, and so this will be only to inflate it, because you're going to have to hold this button down to inflate it, and this button here will deflate it, and that's the only purpose that this will serve as a remote. So once I get the cable, I'll start soldering it, and I'll start removing the chips and stuff, and I'll plug it back into the pump and show that it works. Okay, so we have the Ethernet cable, 25 feet. And then for this, I'm just going to take a small amount out, and they can take and do as they wish when they get the unit. I'm going to cut this in here. And then I'm going to cut the insulation some. It'd be better if this was a razor blade. We'll see what we can do. Okay, so what I'm doing is soldering one wire to pin 2 of the MOC 3021 or U19 of the board. I'm going to do the same for U15. And then these 2 wires here, the white, are going to go to ground. And when I can trace back, this here goes to ground, I believe. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is there's 2 holes here. I'm going to take them out. I'm going to heat up the holes. And I'm going to just solder out using a toothpick. I'm going to feed these 2 wires into those holes. That way they have somewhat of a better mechanical connection than just sitting on top of something else. This I can't really help. I got 1 wire in. I'm going to do the second wire. They're not very straight wires, so I had to cut some. I'm trying to work with it. Make sure that I have a good connection on the back side. Anyway, with this, there. Now my whites are tied to ground. My orange and green are tied to this. So I believe the right's going to be the inflate, and obviously deflate going to be down. So right is up, deflate is down. So orange is down, right is up. It matters when we're wiring this in here. Next, what I'm doing is I'm going to drill a hole into this bottom part of the remote. And what I kind of want to do is make it so it's just, I don't know, straight in right here at the bottom, and the cord goes in. Make it look legit. And then I'll take and hot glue this in place so this will never come out. And then I'll feed the wires through that. Now here's the remote. I'm gonna see if I can feed this in. I may not be able to because it splits. There we go. Just like that. Okay, so I'm gonna hot glue this wire in, and I'm gonna hot glue that connection in there. So the battery cap can no longer be pulled out. Ideally, what I could do is take and get some electrical tape and map around this so it would be hard to pull out. I don't know where my electrical tape is. So I got this glued. I'm going to let this cool down. And while that's doing that, I'm going to take and remove these chips here and get them out of the way. And then I'll take and cut whatever trace needs to be cut. So none of that other circuitry will be affecting this. Okay, so I'm not sure if the hot glue is set yet. I don't want to mess with it too much. Appears to be set. Cool. Now I'm going to take and solder the wires onto the board. Now we don't have to have the other white wire. It doesn't make any difference. We could just use the 3 wires like I planned before. And I may do that. What I'm going to do is remove one of these traces this trace here. I'm going to remove that. I'm just going to scratch it off. Break the connection. Actually, I could just leave it. Let me think about this for a second. Because I could solder on the other side and it would feed into it. And I always solder one white wire here and that feeds to all that. And then I just have to find what the via is. Select this one here for R14. I could take R14 off. And then the other one for this one. Looks to be for R15. I can take that resistor off and solder there. I'll do that instead of cutting traces. Okay, so what I need to do is remove R15. Make him no longer part of the circuit. And then I'm going to remove, let's see, what was it? R14. Okay, now if I can find a ground, then we'll be all set. And that ground would be in the way. Can remove our 3 down here. Alright, so one white wire goes to, these are way longer than I need, which is fine, I'll tuck it. One white wire goes to here. Steady hands here. Then this was the deflate. So he needs to go down here to R15. On this side. Let me cut this. It's not so long. And then we got a green wire, and that one's going to come up here to R14. And I'm going to remove I'm going to move him sideways. Keep hitting it with my glasses. And then I can cut this one white wire. There. And then this can be gone. And then we just put this like this. And then I gotta figure out a good way to chuck these wires. So they don't get pinched. And now you have a wired remote. I'm going to put this back into the pump and see if it works. This hose here, just in case that might have some type of air leak, so I don't know. We'll see. As far as running the wires out, I think this hole here is blocked, so I'm not really sure we'll be running this wire out. Perfect for the wire to fit through. So this ground and the ground off of U21 are not the same. So grounding that does not bring it down, so it does not work. So I'm gonna have to heat these guys up and put them over to that side of the leg, left side, for the output of U21, and ground that down to 0. So the up button, there's a lever inside there. It's actually a solenoid, I believe, and it shows the direction whether it's sucking or blowing. So if you press the down button, it's going to just deflate. Okay, so if you hold the up button and you press up, it's going to inflate. And that's how that works. Let's try this again. Cool. Well, that's how you convert and bypass all the circuitry and the Sleep Number mattress and make this a wired connection. This is 25-foot cable. Thanks for watching. Please consider subscribing. I'll see you next time.